rebroadcasting a few episodes in between seasons. These next few episodes will take us into what you'll be hearing more of in the next season of Be the Good with Kate. Folks doing good in my home state of New Jersey. Yep, season 8 will be a mini season focusing on my new/old state of NJ. If you didn't already know, I'm a New Jersey native but was living in Midtown Manhattan for well over a decade until just a few months ago. As I rediscover my home state, I wanted to bring on some guests who are doing good here. Just like in prior seasons, when you heard from people from Bali to India and Florida to Utah, you certainly don't need to be in the same location to be inspired to start, restart, or continue your journey to finding your passions and helping others along the way. Today you hear 2 episodes from prior seasons that happen to feature NJ residents, Dr. Kelly Kessler, episode 87, and Noreen Eddy, episode 23.
Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world.
Today on Be the Good with Kate, I'm so happy to introduce you to Dr. Kelly Kessler. Kelly is a licensed physical therapist, wellness coach, host of the podcast Rewiring Health, and the owner of Optimal You Health and Wellness, LLC. Kelly teaches women who have a history of an eating disorder how to regulate their nervous system to achieve relief from chronic pain through her signature method, Eating Disorder Pain Solutions. Inspired by her own journey of recovering from an eating disorder and chronic back pain, Kelly has helped many women harness their profound ability to shift from survival mode to thriving. Kelly uses an integrative approach to healing, including a personalized audit, education, community support, and actionable steps to create long-lasting results. And we also just discovered that we are both from New Jersey originally, and that's where Kelly's talking to me from today. So Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
My pleasure. And such an important topic for sure that I feel like this can't be talked about with different perspectives enough. So please, I gave a little bio, but tell everybody a bit more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I never intended to do what I do today in the big scheme of things. I've kind of just found my way, and it's like I really feel like it's my true purpose to do what I'm doing. So it kind of found me, I feel like. But I went through an eating disorder through my late teens, mid 20s for about 6 to 7 years. And the nature of my eating disorder was that I was bulimic. So I started purging through exercise, and then I started purging through vomiting as it kind of progressed. It was a long battle. So to keep it short, I ended up recovering from that in my mid 20s, but found myself in a place where I had chronic back pain from it. And I didn't realize they were connected until much later on. So that wasn't very clear to me, but all I knew is that I had chronic back pain. I was in my mid 20s, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm way too young to be experiencing this. And I went to a clinician, and they said, you only have half your disc height at L4, L5, and it's only going to get worse. And so I just was in really dark, hopeless place for a long time. And just I'm like, eventually want to have kids. I, want to live my life. I love being athletic. I love being active. This can't be my forever. So fast forward many years, I went through physical therapy school and started doing all the things I learned there on me. And again, no relief. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even help myself. This is crazy. And it was only when I started realizing that my stress levels were corresponding to my back pain. When I was really stressed, my back pain was off the charts. When I felt a little bit better, it wasn't so bad. And then I started working through that, dove in head first to learn everything I could, and then started applying it. And really that was the open door to experience relief. And so, now I'm in a position where I want to help others who were where I was years ago and felt hopeless and they didn't know where to turn, or they just don't want to live like this. And so that's what brought me to my mission today, to help individuals who've had an eating disorder and now have pain subsequent to it.
Wow, wow. And I'd love to go back real quick. Can
Sure.
you just tell people a little bit more about how you were able to work through the eating disorder to then get past it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was extremely hard for me, especially because of the nature of my eating disorder. I was an over exerciser. So for me, I would be at the gym after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, running the roads at 3 a.m. while everyone was going out to the bars. I mean, I just pound the pavement all hours of the day. So um I feel like looking back at it, my pivotal moment, not that I like, okay, I'm going to recover from here on out, but I had just run miles. I had eaten a lot, and then I had thrown up twice, and I was sitting on my floor just shaking. My heart was pounding, and I was just like just crying. And I'm like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And so that was the moment I felt like I want to get out of this, but I don't know how, you know? And so I'm a headstrong person. I will figure it out. So I truly believe the same determination that kept me in it helped me get out of it. And I just took the smallest steps I could. If I stopped exercising by 1 minute a day, that was a success. And I just kind of took the small steps out of it. It wasn't a linear journey. There were many setbacks. There were times that I felt great, and it was tough, but it took me several years to get to a point where I felt like I wasn't at least tethered by it. And then this was many years ago, but you know, it's like it's kind of always with you, but it doesn't control you anymore. And that's where I'm very free from it. It doesn't affect my life, but it's not that you don't have those glimpses of like who you used to be from time to time.
You know, it's interesting over the years. I'm in the fitness world and the dance and performing world, and just a history with food in general too myself, that talking to people, there are people that will totally relate to exactly what you said and be able to feel all of that feeling of that, like you said, determination, staying in it, determination helped you get out of it. And then I think there's also those people that just, food is just food, it's just fuel, and that's they eat because they're hungry and stop when they're done. And that is just not like, it's so normal for some people and so abnormal for others. But regardless of where someone is hearing your story, there's so much that we can all relate to too, in that idea of there's always something that's pulling us down, or that's trying to, what's the word I'm looking for, like maneuver life off the path we want it to be on. And finding that determination, that strength, and also that acceptance of where we are and then where we want to be, that's so huge. So I just admire you so much for being able to work through that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's like, I look back and then I'm like, how did I do that? But it really is like, I just took kind of one day at a time, and it was multiple years it was. So it wasn't like, overnight thing, but, I had one friend who was there for me and just listened. So I definitely am grateful for her. And the same thing, I dove in head first, just like I did with the back pain. Like, what can I do for myself? I just figured out how I could just change my mindset around anything just to get some kind of foothold. And then it's like that opened up the door for the next little foothold. And that's kind of what I did, was just take step-by-step process to just think differently and choose different things.
Well, it is just incredible, every day to be doing that. And it's something so that, other people don't know around you that's going on. And it's a part of your whole life every day. So just absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. And now jumping ahead, then you threw the energy you had said to then being able to help yourself with back pain, and then realizing you could help others. Can you tell a little bit more about that path of going from realizing that this is something that you can work through and heal from, to then now helping clients with that?
Yeah. So I had approached the back pain strictly from like a mechanical point of view. Like, okay, what's shortened, what's weak, what are the imbalances? Like, I was looking at my body from every aspect, like, what's going on in my spine. And my husband's a physical therapist too. So now I have somebody who can help me, like, oh, can you try this manipulation? Okay, that didn't help, so I was literally looking at it just from like an orthopedic approach. And so when I started just like doing some breath work, and one day, and I had watched this documentary called Heal, and I was like, it's really about the power of the mind to change your life. And this was particularly about health conditions, like significant health conditions. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. Like, it just like kind of left a little seed in my head. I'm like, well, let me like try some of these things, So I started doing breath work, started doing some like intuitive movement, started reading and listening to podcasts that had to do with all that. And really it was like my pain started dissipating. It didn't impact me like it was. Like before I was having trouble just driving to work. I had an hour commute to work. I had to stop to stretch because I couldn't make it the full hour. I wasn't sleeping at night. I had trouble tying my shoes. I mean, so like all those things started to get gradually better. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty amazing, you know? So it's like, once you have that little glimmer of hope, it's like, that's your momentum, you know? So I just kept going into learning everything I could about the nervous system. And that's the more I learned, the more I realized that the eating disorder I had experienced had caused so much dysregulation in my system, because it was like years of micro traumas. Like, and I had lived in such a different realm of what's authentic to me. Like I was this persona to everybody that everything is perfect. I'm an athlete. Everything's great. Like people called me Smiley because I was smiling all the time. I'm like, if you only knew what was going on in my heart, like I'm not that person. So I felt like there was this dissonance for years that I was portraying a different image of what I felt. And I feel like that compounding on top of everything else that I had been experiencing emotionally was just embedded in my system. And as I kind of started bringing awareness to that, it allowed me to kind of release that from my body. And it really was the game changer. So having that experience and going through it myself, and then working as a physical therapy in a corporate setting, I started applying that to my patients, and they also were seeing tremendous results. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm being stifled by how much I can actually help people in the corporate setting. So the pandemic was a blessing in disguise. I got furloughed, and it really became my opportunity to take this full time.
Great. And now you see clients virtually and in person now, correct?
Just virtually now.
Just virtually.
Yeah,
okay.
Just virtually. Yeah. So I have an online course, and then do like coaching alongside with that.
Fantastic. Have you found it to be, and maybe there's not one aspect, but that you see the biggest results with clients and with your own pain? Is it the breath work? Is it the just being mindful of what's going on? Is there one major shift, or is it a collection of many?
Yeah, I found it to be a collection of many, because everyone responds differently. So things that have worked for me may not be necessarily best for someone else, but it's finding out what's resonating with you. So there's, some people just benefit tremendously from just visual work. So working through the visual system, some the vagus nerve, some a combination of that. So it really is like, what I do is I give you all the tools and then allow you to kind of figure out what's working for your system. And it really is it's individualized, but there is a system that does work as far as the consistency, having the support, having the accountability throughout it, and giving yourself a moment to implement self-care without the guilt. And I think that's what a lot of the people I work with, they feel guilty for taking care of themselves because they're so used to helping everyone else before themselves. They're people pleasers. They're empathetic people, like they're good people, but they never really take care of themselves. And that's really the big part of it.
I'm so glad there's a greater and greater focus on all of this, because for so many years it was either like a diagnosis and that was it, or you just ignored the feelings and pushed it aside. So I'm so glad that more and more people are bringing these alternative therapies to the foreground, and they're just the things that are getting to the root of the issue, not the band-aids. And can you share any of those good news moments from maybe client stories or just things you've observed over the years of people finding that relief? I mean, your own story is such a great news moment in of itself, but
yeah. So, one that sticks out to me is I had worked with this woman, and when I went and saw her, I looked through her whole medical history, and it was like multiple autoimmune disorders. Like she had gone through the ringer with medications, procedures. She was completely inundated in the medical system. And while I'm not, the medical system absolutely serves a purpose, but for this woman, it was to her detriment, because she was so focused on everything that was, quote, wrong with her and everything that was negative about her health, that it was so ingrained in her head that she was never going to be healthy, that she would always live like this. And so working with her and giving her something different that she had never had before allowed her to just open up to the possibility of something different. And she went from sitting on her couch basically not even really moving to walking around her house with a walker. So that for her, I mean, it's all relative, but that for her, that was an amazing progress. And then she also, every time she was having a flare up, she had the tools to go back to help her system relax and calm down. Whereas before, when she would have a flare up, she was actually passing out multiple times. So her husband always had to be home with her because she was passing out. So she was, even though her pain didn't go away completely, in a short period of time, she had tremendous improvement in her function. And to me, that was a huge success. And as she continued down working with these things, she only got better. So that was
fantastic. Fantastic. Another question, kind of almost the flip of that, but that popped up. Is there something that sticks out as the most challenging part of your job now in trying to help these clients find their way?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge is that for the most part, many of the people I've worked with have been told for years that, just like this one, what's wrong, everything that's wrong with them. And they've been put in a place where they feel hopeless, where they feel like there's something innately wrong with them. And they continually just focus on that and focus on their body being their enemy. And so I think the biggest barrier to this is just getting people over the hump where they can change that perspective that you don't have to live like this forever. Your body's not your enemy. It's actually your advocate. And if you can learn to see that it's just giving you messages because there's a lot going on in the brain, essentially, as far as the dysregulation that's manifesting physically. So I think honestly, the perspective, the mindset, and those subconscious messages that people have is the biggest barrier.
Perspective and mindset. I can't tell you how much that comes up. And I mean, I know you know this too, from being in just various health industries. I mean, be it from my performing side of life, fitness side of life, talking to so many guests on the podcast, perspective and mindset. It just keeps coming up as the thing that is the ultimate change agent. So I love that you mentioned that too.
Yeah, it makes a big difference because again, our thoughts become our beliefs when we attach emotion to them. And then that becomes who we become. That's our being. So even though we don't see it happening, it's always happening. Every time you gain information, if you are emotionally attaching to it, whether it's positive or negative, it becomes part of you. And our subconscious runs 95% of our lives. So it becomes a problem when it's not the right dialogue that we're telling ourselves all the time.
And you just opened that door to what I saw on your website today. You mentioned Atomic Habits. This is not the first time I brought it up on the podcast. I love the book. I love what he's doing. James Clear, for people listening, if you're not familiar with it. And he talks so much about that. Like if you tell yourself, oh, I'm not a morning person, or, oh, I'm a sweets person, you're just reconfirming that in yourself. And if you just keep saying, I'm a sweets person, I can't give up sugar, you're never going to give up sugar until you at least start to reframe that. Or I'm not a morning person, then good luck trying to work out in the morning or whatever it is. And I'm sure you must see this every day then with clients trying to change those sentences.
100%. The most powerful statement you can make is an I am statement. So it's like you literally will direct your life, but just by saying who you are. So it's like you have to be very cautious of those I am statements. You can say that, I'm feeling this way right now, but is that truly who you are? So it's like removing yourself from that. Are you truly a sad person? Are you just feeling sad right now? And it's a nuance, but it makes all the difference for how we program our brains.
I feel like I just want to take those last 20 seconds of this episode and then just copy paste about 4 times for the audience to listen to before they can get on to the next part. But that's huge. That is so huge and so needed to be shouted from the rooftops.
Yes, absolutely.
So speaking of all these kind of quotes and quips here, is there any saying or mantra that you have come back to over the years through your own struggles and now struggles as a business owner and health journey that help you and help motivate you?
Yeah. One that sticks out to me is no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And that for me just completely resonated with me because I look back at who I was when I was going through an eating disorder and I'm like, it feels like a stranger I talk about. I'm like, I don't even know that person in a way. It's like I'm so removed from it because I'm a different person today than I was then. And that's because my level of consciousness has grown from then. So I was able to help myself because I've allowed myself to grow consciously, to remove myself from what that has become. And it really is what our brains are telling us and what we're telling ourselves is where we're going to move. So, if we're trying to fix our problems and not allowing ourselves to grow internally, we're never going to do that.
That's such a good one. Such a good one.
Oh, thanks.
And then a question I've been asking everyone, I love hearing the answers to, is if someone came to you and they said, I see all the good you're doing for others, I want to make a difference in the world, but I feel overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. Is there any advice you'd give them?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going off Atomic Habits, this is big for me, and it works for me, and it's worked for many people. Start as small as you absolutely need to. That is like the biggest thing, because honestly, momentum follows action. So the minute you can take the smallest action that you're able to today, you're going to get an energy about it that makes you want to keep going, and then you can add another action on, and it's that compounding action that creates a different reality. So if you can take that and decrease your overwhelm by not feeling like you have to overhaul your life, that's the biggest golden token right there.
Yes, that one step. And I love how you said momentum creates action.
Yeah, follows action.
Or follows action rather.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good one. Oh, fantastic. This has been so quotable, Kelly. Can you tell us a little bit more about your programs you're offering and where people can find you online?
Sure. Yeah. So my program is Eating Disorders Pain Solutions. So what it does is it goes through the whole process of auditing what's causing nervous system dysregulation in yourself. So it's an individualized audit. And then I run you through looking at your subconscious messages. How can we change those? And then giving you all the tools for nervous system dysregulation and allowing you to pick what is going to fit you and your life. And it's all in the premise of like Atomic Habits, starting very small, not inducing overwhelm, and allowing you to proceed in a way that's fitting for you. So that's my program. And then people can find me at optimalu, YOU, healthandwellness.com. And then on the social is Dr. Kelly Kessler.
Great. And you offer so many resources on your website and Instagram and everything. So definitely check that out. And Kelly, I cannot thank you enough for being here and talking with me today.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Today's guest is Noreen Eddy. I'm so excited to talk to her. And we know each other from that audition world of years past. But Noreen is such a multi-hyphenate. She is an actor, a hand model, a writer, a mom, a wife. And on top of all that, and I'm sure I'm missing things, a very decorated Irish step dancer and instructor. I mean, the list goes on. And that's something that I've so loved with this show, is just really showing people that being a multi-hyphenate it's not only getting more normal, it's embraced now. Like, you don't have to just do one thing. And Noreen is such a great example of that, because she is also going to talk to us today about her blog, our2family.com, and everything that she and her husband have been doing with home renovation, home buying, and all that fits into those categories. If you are buying a home now or in the future, if you're renovating, or if you have any kind of interest in living in a home, get to that website ASAP. You will be pulled in. I was just telling Noreen, I've become obsessed with it. I love her writing style. She found a way to make all these very complicated ideas of home ownership really digestible and funny. I found myself laughing while I was reading it. So anyway, I am getting way ahead of myself, but Noreen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So first question is simply, or not so simply, who are you and what do you do in your own words?
Yeah, that's not a simple question. Gosh, it's so think you're like, hi, who am I? So I'm God's kid. I'm Derek's wife. Yeah. I'm Hugh's mommy. And in my professional life, I am an actor and a model, and therefore a hand model, which is the weirdest thing. I'm a dancer, and now I'm a blogger. So it's kind of weird, but it's really fun.
I love it. And Noreen, tell us a bit more about your path to where you are now. you can encompass all the facets of your careers or just one. Just, I would love to hear how you went from A to B to C and so on.
Yeah, I think I'm around like LMQ area. Yeah, so I started out in music theater. I went to school for music theater at Catholic University. I got a degree in music. Their music theater degree is music. And at the time I thought, okay, I'll do like music theater for a little while. And then if I want to go back to school, maybe I might use that for like music ed or music therapy. So that's why I went into music theater. I know there's BFA programs and acting programs and dance programs. So I ended up in the music side of things. And I did regional, I did stock, put in all those hours. I did the grind. I toured a bit. As you mentioned, I'm an Irish dancer. So I did some Irish dance shows and saw the middle of the country from the inside of a van and a bus. And and found my way back to New York. Found my way back. I'm from New Jersey originally, outside New York City. So we have that in common as well. And kind of came home. I didn't really expect, you say, I'm going to get out of here and I'm never coming back. And I thought, New York will be there. It was never really like an unknown to me. It was never that mystique of New York. It was like the drag of New York. Cause my folks are from the city and it was always just like that place you commute to, and when you're vesseled to New York as the Port Authority, it's not quite the glam thing. So anyway, so I came home and discovered that I didn't like leaving town all the time for theater, and kind of reassessed and found my way into commercials. And I saw like my skills and my face kind of worked best in that area, because commercials like quirky, weird people such as myself. And from commercials, I found my way into hand modeling, which is obviously a very related field. And it was a total accident. And so from hand modeling, so commercials, any actor really would tell you, and I'm sure you would attest to this, that your income can either go up or it can go down, and you don't know when. We were talking about this before we started, like you don't know when all the effort you're putting in is going to pay off, if it will. And I've had really good days and I've had really bad days, as we all do. I always thought, like, wouldn't it be so cool to have a steady stream of passive income? Like just to pay for class. That's all I wanted to do was like pay for class. So I always had real estate in my head. I grew up in a fixer-upper. My dad is a carpenter. My parents moved out of the Bronx when they first got married in the 80s and moved to Jersey, and bought the ugliest house on the nicest block. And when I say ugly, like they closed on their house and then they had to go buy a door for the side of the house to like close the house. Like that's how bad their house was.
Gosh.
Yeah. Their first Christmas in their house, their heat sat down, like they had to get a new boiler, like great stuff. So I grew up in it, like I'm used to it. And I always thought, like, wouldn't it be so cool to have an investment property? Right. And then I met my husband, my now husband, and we were shopping for a house right after we got married. We were living in Queens and in Woodside, and we were like, let's buy a house. We looked in Queens for 5 seconds and we're like, this is crazy. We're not living in New York. We're not owning in New York. This is crazy. We're not millionaires. So we came right back to Jersey, and got our foreclosed 2-family house, which is where our 2-family comes from. So I am still auditioning as much as I can. Obviously the pandemic is cuckoo. Managed to have COVID and then managed to have a baby in the pandemic. So now I'm a mom. So that's how I got there. And so that's kind of my journey to where we are. And then, so the house has been a little crazy. Obviously a foreclosure comes with its own set of crazy circumstances. And we bought the ugliest house on the nicest block we could afford. Right. And so we've spent 4 years renovating it. And we've had a lot of help. And I just thought the whole time my mom is like, you should blog about that. And of course, your mom's your biggest supporter, right? So I'm like taking pictures as we go. It's maybe someday I'll start a blog when I have time, and then I think the pandemic for everybody said, you now have time. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. So I think one day, I bought the domain a while ago, and then I was like, I should really start, I'm paying for this domain for Art to Feel. I should really start blogging. And then, you're pregnant and there's a pandemic and you're not really leaving your house, and you start to learn how to do WordPress, and I just started writing.
Fantastic.
So that's kind of, does that answer your question? Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And congratulations on like the complete renovation of a house, the birth of a child, like making it through COVID and still having a positive attitude. Because if people listening don't know Noreen or follow her yet, like she had some amazing posts too, giving insight into having COVID, which was just kind of mind blowing there too. And Noreen, the next question, actually, you covered a bit with COVID, how your world has looked different since the pandemic began, and then maybe what you want to continue, like what's changed for the better, and what are you like, I can't wait until I can do XYZ again.
Well, the easy answer to that last question is I can't wait to travel again.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like I haven't been on a plane in so long, and I love traveling. So, but sorry, the first question was?
Sure. Just how your world has changed due to the pandemic, which you touched on already. And then maybe if there's anything that has changed for the better that you want to continue.
Yeah. So what's changed for my world? Immediately, I realized it's really nice not to commute.
Yes.
Like anyone who takes a train anywhere to get to their job or auditions or whatever, to not have a 25-pound backpack on your back and be able to do things from home is really nice. So that's the service level answer. Other things that have changed, my perspective on life is totally different.
Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned, I was really, really sick with COVID, and I spent a lot of time lying down in my bed looking at the ceiling. And I had long haul COVID, so I was sick for like 3 months. I thought like, 2 weeks have gone by. I've done my thing. Like I had my fever. I'm good. No, I just kept going. And in that time, I got to really, really think like, okay, what's actually important? Where do I really want to be? How do I really want to spend my time? Like truly spend my time. I can say, I spend time with my family and I spend time with this and I go to church on Sundays, but like, you board the line of like, maybe I should have gone to the hospital with COVID, and you're like, maybe priorities are different. So I had a lot of time to think. So I'm really grateful for that time. So I think, realizing like, if you miss an audition once, it's going to be okay. I hope there are artists listening to your podcast, because you have to be a workaholic if you're going to succeed in the industry in New York, right? It's just kind of the way it goes. Because if you don't work, someone else will, and they'll get the job, right? We all know that. That's pretty standard. And the Olympics are on TV right now. Like, you got to put in that extra rep, you got to practice for that extra hour. And at the end of the day, when you're thinking about your own mortality, maybe that doesn't matter so much. And I'm sure my agents will kill me if they find out that I don't want to go to every single possible 1,000th audition, because truly I think it's been 1,000 auditions at this point for me, at least for commercials. And I truly go to all of them. But yeah, it definitely, COVID definitely like shook my head up and said, hey, what's important, right? And then we had a baby in the middle of a pandemic. I think having a baby not in a pandemic is adjustment enough, but to go through the experience of, going to the hospital and there's nobody there. I mean, which is kind of nice. Like after you have your baby, you're like exhausted and you don't want anyone to come visit you.
Not the first time I've heard that comment from people who've had babies during the pandemic.
Yeah, I just saw a friend who had her baby last summer in the middle of things, and it was her second baby. She's like, God, it was really nice that nobody came to the hospital and bothered us. That's nice. But then when you get home and you're on your own. And we were trying to be careful of other people who could come to our house that we didn't know what we'd been exposed to at the hospital, right? And then you're trying to protect your newborn who's, could get anything, the common cold is dangerous for a newborn. So it's just this whole mind-blowing thing. And having a kid is just the coolest, weirdest, most wonderful thing ever, even though it's work, obviously, because a little human is totally dependent on you to keep them alive. And that's mind-blowing. But you do it, and you just, every day it's one day at a time. And it's just been a wonderful mind shift, and it's been great.
Wow. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So Hugh's how old now?
He's 6 months. It's great. I think it's more fun. The first 2 months, I will admit, and I think any new parent would agree that the first 3 months are really hard.
Can imagine.
Yeah, there's the sleep deprivation thing. And I think it's not that you don't get 8 hours of sleep in a 24-hour span, it's that you don't get straight sleep. Like there's consecutive sleep. I think that's the part. That's the part that made me feel like I was drunk all the time. I don't know about anyone else.
I don't know how people do it. But you do somehow.
You just do it. And you and your partner just kind of like, I don't know how anybody does this by themselves, but like you just kind of prop each other up and rely on your tribe when you need to, and call your mom. Hopefully your mom or your dad is around, or someone who's done this before. My brother and sister-in-law have 2 kids. So they were a great support for us. You just find people that support, and you just get through it, and you eat a little takeout, and you eat a little pizza, and you get through.
Well, that's such a great example of what my next question asks, which is examples of goodness. And I feel like that's one, having that support system, getting through all that you've got through. The whole premise is good news. So examples of, through your knowledge in the whole construction and renovation world, where have you seen others succeed through you helping them through this world, or you yourself in your memories of learning from your dad or learning from others, where you really felt like, oh, I'm succeeding through this, or I can help my own family through renovating, or someone else through the blog?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of examples. So one, we have been victim to so much generosity of time in our house. My dad, I don't know why, maybe it's the I can't sit still thing, that grown men in their 60s, but like if we were working on a project and we told my dad when we were working on it, he would be here, balls to the walls, 8:00 in the morning, already on a second cup of coffee on a Saturday after having worked the full week.
Wow.
It's really something to behold. And there's something about these tradespeople, tradesmen, tradeswomen, that like they can't not, they're like, they just have to come play, And so when we did our second floor, for example, we were going to hire it out. This is a funny thing about our house. Derek and I said, when we were first buying a house, we're like, we don't want a fixer-upper. It's on paper. We like wrote down a goal and said what we want in a house. And right at the bottom of the list says, we don't want a fixer-upper. And we laugh at that. Anytime we like kept that piece of paper, it's like a piece of stuff. We're laughing at ourselves because this house is truly, as my brother put it, a fixer-upper. Fixer-upper. And so we were going to do the second floor, right? And so we got contractors to come in and have a look at it, right? Because there was a kitchen that was, it's not even on my blog yet. Like there's so much that I need to explain about it because it was so bad. And a bathroom. So we were going to like rip out a kitchen and a bathroom. And we got some estimates, and they were healthy numbers. And I said to my dad, I was like, Dad, how hard would it be to just do it ourselves? And he's like, all right. And so for the next, I guess, 3 months, my dad just came over all the time and helped us.
Wow.
Out, like literally down to the studs in some spots. The bathroom is totally down to the studs. We renovated the entire apartment upstairs. New flooring, the bathroom, like I said, it was top to bottom. The kitchen, new ceiling, like a couple of new walls, like cabinets, like it was crazy. And not only my dad, but his bestie, who just happens to enjoy taping, which is like if you put the walls up, like the sheetrock goes up, right? And then there's the muck and the tape that goes in between the boards to make it flat, right? To make it smooth. He just really likes taping it. He's like, oh, for me, I'll be right over. They came to my house like all the time, like literally every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I couldn't believe that someone it's not their dream. It's not their dream. It's our dream. They were like, we want to see you succeed. So can we come over? They're like 2 grown men in a sandbox playing with like, ducks. And gosh, it was really something. We had to do a staircase. That would be the advanced version of home renovations. Like I wouldn't have done that unless my dad was around. Like a staircase is a serious deal. And we like picked a date. I had to go to a bridal shower that day. I was a bridesmaid. I went, okay, funny story. So it was on a Saturday. We picked staircase day, right? So we had ordered the staircase. My father-in-law is an architect, so he like helped us measure it out. My dad double checked it all. Like Derek's a drafter, so like he drew it. We ordered the staircase.
Gosh.
Somebody delivered a staircase to our house, and it's not like a small staircase. We're talking like a 14-stair staircase. My dad's like, I want to do it. Because we got a contractor to estimate that too. And it was also a health number. And he's like, no, you're not paying that. I'm coming over. I'll get my friends. So here we are. These random people just think it's fun and interesting to install a staircase in somebody's house. So it's Friday night, right? And they're prepping, right? Derek, my husband, my dad, Frankie, my dad's bestie, are, you know, cleaning stuff out. And I said, I got to go set up for the bridal shower. I'll be back in an hour, whatever. So I go to set up for this bridal shower. I'm decorating, you know, crepe paper and setting up chairs and whatever, and plates and napkins. And I come home and the door opens slowly. And I'm like, what is going on? And they each have this shit-eating grin on their faces. And they're like, they had ripped out the whole other staircase in the hour that I was gone. I was like, what? I said some other words than what on earth. But like, I actually couldn't believe they were so excited, like kids in a candy shop.
Toy.
So excited. Like, you know, when Mrs. Doubtfire, at the end of Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams hops over the table and like has all of his stuff, help us on the way, dear. Like that is what these guys were like to go to the staircase. It takes a sincere amount of generosity of heart to do something like that for someone else's house. And they all just showed up. So the next day they all show up. They had the staircase installed before I left for the bridal shower. They were like so pleased with themselves. They were pleased as punch. It was crazy. Yeah, that's just one case in point of right?
Okay, after this airs, you're going to be getting messages from total strangers being like, can I have Frankie and your dad's phone number?
They're so funny, you know, but they were saying like some people play soccer on the weekends,
Yeah.
you know, and like, you know, some guys get out and do, you know, whatever at the VFW. I don't know what men in their 50s and 60s do with their time, but like, they just like to work on their houses.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we are determined to pay that forward. Now our skills are not quite as sharp as theirs are. But if, you know, if there's a friend in our world or family that need help, we're like, please, can we help you? You know, my brother ripped out his bathroom a couple years ago and we were like, we'll be there. You want us to help you with your bathroom? We are there.
Amazing.
It's kind of I guess it started with my grandfather. So my dad is like I want to say 4th or 5th generation carpenter, 5th generation, I think.
Oh, wow.
Grandfather's carpenter as well. And when I was a kid, we would like wake up on a Saturday, right? And we knew that my grandfather, Huey is his name, we knew he'd be coming because my mom would have special Coca-Cola in the cabinet for him. We'd wake up on a Saturday and the jelly donuts would be there fresh from the bakery. You know, a Jersey bakery, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Bakery. And so we'd be like, oh, granddad's coming. And whatever we would be working on in our house, he would be there. He would have his baseball cap ready to go. At 7:30, he'd roll up in his car, have his coffee, and at 8 o'clock, boom, the coffee cup hit the table. Let's go. And whatever the project was, whether it was installing a window or, you know, siding or all the crazy things that my father's done to his house, my grandfather would be there. So I think it's just normal for us to just go along and just help other people with their house projects.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And you learn, like, the more you volunteer for other people's stuff, like the more you learn about how to do things. You know, you can YouTube your face off and you can read my blog if you want to, but you're going to learn it hands-on. You know, Derek knew nothing about carpentry or, you know, very little about house stuff. Like, he'd owned a house once before, but very little about like home renovations. And now he's, you know, he's excited to go shopping for tools. He's like got all the skills that my dad is teaching him. And because if you watch and you learn and you listen, like there's so much to know, but you can really, really learn it from just people if you just volunteer to help them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
The skills, the human connection, just all of it.
Yeah. So, and the good that I hope that we're doing, quick story, my friend from college that I had not seen for probably 10 years. I guess it's been a long time since I've gotten out of school. My friend from college, I hadn't seen him in years. Saw him at a wedding. And yeah, what are you doing? How's it going? What's new? Oh, we just bought this 2-family house. We're renovating it. We're going to rent out the second floor. And he's like, that's so cool. That's a really good idea. Didn't see him for 3 more years. Fast forward 3 years. He and his wife bought a 2-family house. And they just fixed the bathroom. And I posted my blog recently on Facebook, and his wife commented on the thing. She's like, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have gone and bought our 2-family house. You guys inspired us. It was like totally mind-blowing. It was an offhand conversation. It wasn't a long conversation. But we had explained, like, like it helps, pay your mortgage and your taxes. New Jersey taxes are very high. So it just kind of helps that we're not like going to Hawaii on this money, but we just wanted something that would help us with a stream of income. And they're like, you totally inspired us. I was like, what? How cool is that?
So you never know. You never know when you're going to inspire someone. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Truly. Yeah. So hopefully that's a little bit of good we're doing in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you said too about just that you are now making such an effort to pay it forward. And I wish that if we all did that, think about how much better the world would be, right? If we all just did an ounce of that, right? So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what the blog is also. I was talking with a friend at another wedding. I guess I see my friends at weddings. I was talking to her and she's like, yeah, you bought a house and our other friend bought a house and you have your family to fix it. But my family doesn't know anything about houses. I don't have that. I don't feel like I could do that. And I said, no, you have me. We'll help you. And I thought, not everyone has my dad sitting around with his truck full of tools being like, I want to help you. And for our, the millennial population, we get a bad rap for having too many lattes and avocado toast. But like, I think the problem is like, we weren't told to go mess with stuff on the weekends in a house and like, tinker with an auto in our garage, an automobile in our garage. Like we were told to go to college and we were told to do your studies and follow your dreams. And that's great. I tried that. I'm still doing that. But I think, there's a bit of a disconnect in how to buy a house and how to manage your finances and how to fix a random thing in your bathroom. When we first bought the house, I got home from the city one night. It was like 9:30 at night and I'd had a long shoot day or something. And I come into the house and Derek has the entire toilet in pieces on the dining room floor. Now, this is when we have 3 bathrooms in our house and only one of them worked when we bought the house. And I said, Derek, what are you doing? He's like, I'm fixing it. What? You're doing what? Right now? Like this couldn't have waited till the morning? Just thought. But he true to his word, he fixed it. But there's a bit of a disconnect of like, how do you fix stuff in your house? How do you just change out a light fixture? Like once you know what you're doing, it's not that hard. First tip, turn off the electricity, but like it's not too hard. But we just don't know, and I know millennials, we're slow to buy houses. We have student loan debt. Like there's all those things that are kind of stacked against us, not to mention the timing of the 2008 crisis, another economical crisis right now. So I'm hoping that the blog can be something that will help people just like us to go for it and to buy a house and to provide information on what is it? What the heck is a down payment and why do you need it? And, so I don't know everything, and that's kind of the point, because we can work together and all find out together. So if I don't know the answer, I'll go find it. That's for sure. But yeah, we just want to be a resource and a springboard for people to go after it and buy a house and make it happen.
And it's such a great resource, like unbelievable. Like I said at the beginning, it's so digestible and fun to read. It's really like I'm just talking to you, and it really, wait, I hold on. I wrote down one of the quotes from it that I need to
God.
say out loud here. Okay. If you're shopping in post 2020, you might be waiting outside in a huge line, like obtaining tickets to a Backstreet Boys concert circa 1999. I mean, there is so many quips like that I was like, I don't know where it came to your brain, but it's so good. Just to lighten it up, because I feel like any other article is, this is how you do a mortgage. This is how you do this. And again, your unique perspective of just having gone through it, being that, what do you call it? Midlife millennial, older millennial,
middle-aged millennial.
Middle-aged millennial.
Day I was like, that's me. I'm a middle-aged millennial. Ugh.
I know it sounds really scary when it's said like that.
Yeah, everyone thinks millennials is like 20 somethings, and I'm like, we're not. If you look at your definition of millennial, like we're not in our 20s anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I define millennial as like born almost in the 80s and remember the 90s or remember the 90s, right? So if you're looking around saying, why is everybody wearing bike shorts? That was a thing in the 90s. You might be a millennial.
I've said that so many times often. I'm like, 1992 is back in full force.
It's bonkers.
Yes.
It's bonkers, except the hair is a little better. Like the 90s hair.
Yeah, oh, that's a good point.
It was a choice.
Yes.
I was reading an article on CNBC, and it was, again, why aren't millennials buying houses? Middle-aged millennials are starting to buy houses. I kind of identified with that definition. I try to keep it fun. So writing, I never thought of myself as a writer. Never. I'm studying the lines. I produce the lines that the writer wrote. I'm not that writer. And I realized that I have been journaling daily. In the middle of the pandemic, like most people, I've been cleaning out my house. Because what else do you do but get rid of things when you're staring at it all the time? And I realized I've been journaling every day for the better part of 15 years. So I've been writing every day, not good writing, but just, journaling. Anyone who's done The Artist's Way, I'm sure has pulled out a journal. It's a great book.
So good.
And during my COVID, during my nice jaunt with COVID, I started writing like what I was going through and how it was going, and ended up posting a couple times on Facebook, and people are like, you should keep writing. And people other than my mom said I should keep writing. And I was like, oh, maybe I should keep writing. So truthfully, every day, for a while it was at 6 a.m., but now, because I'm able to work out again, it's at 7 a.m. I just sit down and write, or work on the blog and try to like understand technology, which is always a challenge because I may be a millennial, but it's middle-aged, right? Thanks. I don't really know what to say other than thanks. It's comical because my house is comical. Like when we bought our house, it was like, I can't believe we paid so much money for this. Like if you look at some of the before pictures on our website, like they're real bad.
Done amazing work.
You just have to laugh at yourself. Otherwise you're going to cry. My mom told me that she says you can either laugh or you can cry. So you may as well laugh at it. When you're like, why is that pipe leaking? Just laugh, go for a beer, come back, reassess. So yeah. That's
such a great, because my final question for you, is there any quotes that you find yourself saying, especially to get through these renovation times? And that's such a great one right there. Are there any others you want to leave us with?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a story, of course.
I love it.
So, as you know, I'm an Irish dancer, right? And Irish dance teachers are strict, would be a kind way of saying it. Lunatics in some cases. And I have had some wonderful, fabulously wonderful, slightly crazy teachers, as we all do in our lives. Anyone who's watching the Olympics right now can probably say like, oh, that coach is crazy or whatever. So we have our workshop teacher come once a year growing up, from Ireland. And Mona is truthfully one of the best Irish dance teachers in the world, right? She has multiple world champions in her career. Like she's a fabulous dancer herself. Like she's wonderful. And I was a good kid. If there was a brown noser, it was right here. And I was always on my best behavior in class, like didn't want to do anything wrong, did not want to get yelled at, did not want my mom to know that I got yelled at, right? And so we were in this workshop, and it's long days and your body's tired. And it was like 5 minutes to 9. We were 5 minutes to the end of class, and someone had lollipops. And I wanted a lollipop. And so I sat down with whoever this was and opened up a lollipop and started having this lollipop. And Mona was not done with class because there was 5 minutes left, right? Dance teachers, you dance to the end, to the last minute.
Second.
Yeah, exactly. So she was working out something, and I don't know why, because I was not the best dancer in my class by any stretch. And I don't know why she picked me, but she picked me, and she gets in my face. And picture this. Noreen, get up and do it! And Kate, I thought I was going to die. I thought the floor was just going to open up and hell would consume me and that I was going to die at 16 years old. And sure enough, of course, I got up. Lollipop on fire. I got up, and whatever she was doing, I did it. But the takeaway that has stuck with me all these years, get up and do it. Get up and do it. If you want to start a blog, get up and do it. Just get up and do it. If you want to buy a house, get up and do it. If you want to go for a 1 mile run and that's a goal for you, get up and do it. That's it. So yeah, so that's my thing with buying a house too. For us, it was, oh, we want to buy a house. And you can want to buy a house for a decade. And it's really easy not to. Really easy not to, especially right now, because the housing market's a little crazy. It's a cuckoo. It's like a spectator sport. But yeah, just get up and do it. Yeah.
Perfect way to wrap this up. I can't thank you enough for being here, Noreen. And make sure you find her our2family.com, and Instagram is at our2family, right?
It is. Yeah. Instagram is going to be a little quiet for now with our 2 family. I'm on Insta at Noreen Eddy.
Yes.
And I'm focusing on Pinterest right now. They tell me bloggers. The word on the blogging street apparently is that Pinterest is a thing. I, being the dinosaur millennial that I am, just joined Pinterest. If anyone listening knows about Pinterest, just privately message me. I would appreciate it. But we're going to focus on that first, and then Instagram will probably come later. But we're there. That's
wonderful. We'll find you. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.